Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Mean Girls remake, the 2024 musical. That's right, it's a musical. This is not a review. I have not seen the movie. If anybody's ever listened to my channel before, you know when it comes to movies, I just don't go to movies no more. I have tinnitus. I'm not gonna risk it. I risked it for Avengers Endgame, but that's because it was Avengers Endgame. So, anyways, what am I here to talk about exactly? Well, the Mean Girls remake, which one day I do plan to watch whenever it's on Paramount Plus, it is struggling at the box office. See, here's the interesting thing. This movie is actually, like I said before, a remake, not so much of the 2004 movie, but the musical theatrical play. A lot of people did not know that going in. And so, oddly enough, when this movie kept getting advertised, every single trailer that came out had not one musical number, not a single one. So many people just assumed this was going to be an updated remake of the 2004 movie. But people had no idea this is actually just the musical and everything from the theatrical play. And some people are not too happy about that whole bait and switch thing. Variety has reported that some of the audience knew going in it was a musical, but 16% had no idea and walked out in disappointment. That is never good when people walk out your movie theater. Now, this was originally supposed to be a Paramount Plus streaming movie, but they decided after positive test scores, they will give it a theatrical run. And it's really messed up that they didn't advertise it as a musical, because people need to know what exactly they are going into. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people who just generally don't like singing. They generally just don't like musical movies and stuff. I used to like musicals growing up, like Disney movies, and whenever a TV episode would have a special episode, a singing episode, I used to love it. But now I just don't like musicals that much. I mean, I still would have seen this movie no matter what, because I love the original. I've talked about the original on my channel. Go watch that. Because, Mean Girls has a very special place in my heart. I got to see a special screening when I was in college with a lot of my friends. It was on my birthday. After that, I went to the club. So I have a really special connection when it comes to this movie. Plus, I just love it and own it on DVD. I've said this before, the original Mean Girls movie is basically, at that point in time in 2004, the new Clueless movie, which came out about 9 or 10 years before Mean Girls. And, Clueless is a massive movie, you know what I'm saying? Now, they came out with a sequel, Mean Girls 2, but it was a TV movie on ABC Family and nobody talks about it because it's utter crap. A bunch of former Disney stars were in it and a couple of Nickelodeon, and it was terrible. I could not even finish it. But it was terrible. So people just don't talk about it. We pretend it don't exist. Then 20 years later, we get this remake and everything. And so with the remake, a lot of people was assuming, okay, maybe they're going to change some stuff up. And they do. They correct a couple of the mistakes. From what I've heard from other people, they correct a lot of mistakes that the first movie made. They emphasize on certain things a bit more. And so like the whole Janice thing. A lot of people, for some bizarre reason, assumes that Janice in the original one should have been a lesbian. But instead, she was straight and she dated a guy at the end of the movie. But a lot of people saying that she gave off a lot of lesbian vibes and stuff like that. Even and so because of that, there's been a huge debate online, you know what I'm saying? So people were saying if the movie like this was, or a movie like that was made today, most likely, yeah, she would be a lesbian and stuff like that. For some reason, they assume because of the goth nature in which she dresses and her hatred towards Regina and all this other stuff. She was like a lesbian. Plus, Regina accused her of being one and stuff like that. She had a gay best friend. I think, what was his name? Darian or something like, no. Damon, that's it, and stuff like that. But they assumed she was always a lesbian. I never got that vibe. I just assumed she was artsy and gothic. But hey, whatever. It was different times back then. But yeah, I can totally see now what some people are getting at. Like, yeah, she probably would fit more of that like lesbian profile and stuff like that. So in the musical, they changed all that. And then in the remake, they changed that as well. So they were trying to correct a couple of mistakes that, or, because, times were different, so they just didn't write it like that back then. And so a lot of people assume that maybe this will be like a sequel with like new characters and some old characters coming in, right? Because a couple of the old characters do show up, and there are a couple who are in the movie predominantly, and then there are some from the older movie that come in as a cameo. And so people assume, okay, it's just going to be like a sequel. But no, it's an actual remake. But the problem is, from what I'm hearing from a lot of people, it's a remake that pretty much goes beat by beat of the original movie, but more so beat by beat of the play. And some songs are left out. And so, well, it is kind of struggling at the box office right now. It had a budget of $36 million. And the news outlets are reporting that it's only making 32 million at the domestic box office. Wikipedia says it's making 34 million. So it's anywhere between 32 and 34. That's not good if it has a budget of 36 million. It needs to break even, which means it needs to implode overseas. And so far, that's not happening. In the few countries it's been released in, it's only made 6.5 million. It is going to have to explode. When I mean explode, it's going to have to explode overseas and stuff. But that is if people want to see, one, a mainly female movie, and two, that of a musical. And we all know what's going on in today's times. A lot of people don't want to see neither and stuff. And so it really sucks because, I love Mean Girls, the original. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that movie and stuff. So, of course, I want the remake to do good because the sequel never did any good. And Tim Meadows has been in all three movies. And, he's a legend from SNL, but he can't really seem to book any good gigs. But he booked a really good one and came to Mean Girls, even though he's barely in the movie. And so why exactly didn't Paramount advertise this as like a musical? We've had two other musicals just come out, Wonka and The Color Purple. Wonka is dominating right now. The Color Purple did dominate for the first week, but it is dramatically dropping in the second and the third week and stuff. And so not even The Color Purple was advertised as like a musical. I don't even think Wonka was advertised as a musical, but people are loving Wonka. So one reason why the networks are probably not advertising it as a musical is simply put, and people just don't want to watch musicals. Musicals come and go. Like, they have their time to shine for like a few years, then they disappear for like over a decade and a half, and then they come back. That's just how it is and everything when it comes to musicals. Chicago was a big musical that came out, but pretty much every other musical movie that came out, it got a lot of praise, but it didn't really do that well in the box office numbers. And in fact, with this movie, it has mixed reviews and everything. And so, of course, a network is just want to get butts into seats and pay those tickets and stuff. And they kind of fear that, like, look, if people hate musicals, and not only that, but people see this as a predominantly female movie and stuff, they might not want to see this movie. So, of course, when they advertise these movies, there's no hint or trace of a musical being like mentioned and stuff. I have no idea how the songs do in this movie, because the last musical I saw was the very first Pitch Perfect movie. I love the songs in that movie, but I didn't particularly like the movie or all the acting in that movie itself. I thought the plot was a little somewhat all over the place, a little weird. It felt a little glee-ish and everything. And the acting, some of the acting was good, some of it wasn't. And it just really didn't do it for me. And then I didn't watch the second or the third, but I listened to the music of the second, and that's good too. I listened to the music of the third, and I did not like that. And so, like, I did love the music of like the first movie, but that's back when I used to go to movies. I saw that in the movie theater before I had tinnitus and stuff. And so a lot of people just don't want to sit around, hear a bunch of people talking, and then all of a sudden they break out and dance and like number and everything. And plus, a lot of guys, especially macho guys, aren't gonna want to listen to like a musical. Musicals are mostly for like theater majors and music majors and then more female driven type stuff. Then you have to think about the second factor as to why this movie could be struggling and stuff. And also the reason why like Color Purple is struggling but Wonka is not. Well, in case you've been living under a rock for the past 10 years or so, there's a little thing called the anti-woke mob, the Phantom Menace. They're basically a bunch of angry, like, I'm not even joking, like, they're mainly, not all of them are, but they're mainly predominantly white males in their 40s and 50s who just get enraged by, like, everything that's diverse. If it's a straight white man, they could care less. And so, like, they've wrangled in a couple of women and a couple of people of color. These are the people who make hundreds of millions of videos a day complaining about diverse content on TV and movies. You have people making 100 videos on Brie Larson, 100 videos on Renee Ziegler, 100 videos on Haley Bailey, 100 videos on Amber Heard. Daily they make these videos, and it's just kind of like, don't you have a life? And stuff like that. And you think, well, don't they have a job instead of making videos all day? Well, that is their new job now because YouTube pays them. They have high subscribing numbers and view numbers and stuff. And because everybody loves to hate in today's world, they get so many views that YouTube's all like, oh, you're, making us look great. So here's a little money and stuff like that. And that's why a lot of these channels do it. And that's why a lot of these newer channels do it. And most of these people aren't even really that hateful. They just do it for like the money. But there are those that really are hateful. And they try their best to ruin as many movies as they can. They tried their best to ruin The Little Mermaid. They're trying to do it with Snow White. They tried their best with Barbie, but Barbie was the exception. Why? Because women finally got off their butts and went to the movie theaters and went over and over and over and over again. See, most movies, no matter what kind of movie it is mainly watched by men and mostly white men. And so women do like a lot of stuff like sci-fi and action and horror and stuff like that, but they don't really flock to the movie theaters to watch it over and over. They mostly just they're going like on a date. And women were not gonna be denied when it came to their movie. And they love Barbie. They had Barbies growing up, and they were not gonna let a bunch of grumpy pot-belly men ruin this experience for them. And so for a lot of women growing up, Barbie was like their best friend and everything. They played with it every day. They were not going to let a bunch of like grumpy, toxic men ruin that for them. So they made sure they went out over and over and over because they didn't want the same thing that happened to say like She-Hulk or Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, where people review bombed it before the movie actually came out, only because they didn't want to see diverse women on their TV screen and stuff. And when it comes to Wonka, well, of course, he's a dude. Like I think he's Jewish. He's Jewish in real life, the actor who plays him, but he looks like a white guy. So that, right there, just, they're like, we don't care and everything. Plus that movie, I'm not sure of the cast. I never really pay attention to the cast. I don't know if it's diverse or not, but just the fact that he's in it, they could care less. Now, Barbie also tricked people. They had no idea it was a feminist movie. So tons of people went to it, and then once they realized that, that's when they started making their million videos online complaining about, like, the agenda and everything. Like, this movie has an agenda and everything. Oh, it's pandering to us and everything. And so they didn't know that going in, but when they did, they got furious. But like I said before, those women were not going to let them rain on their parade. Now you come to The Color Purple and Mean Girls, and it's very diverse. The Color Purple is as a black cast. We know how they feel about that. And Haley Bailey, is it Haley Bailey? Yeah, Holly Berry is the other one. Haley Berry, she's in that movie. And the anti-woke mob hates her only because of The Little Mermaid, only because she is a black woman. Then you got the new Mean Girls remake. And the new Mean Girls always been like predominantly female, right? And the first movie had diversity in it, but those were mainly background characters or recurring characters. The main characters were all white, except for Janice, who they assumed was white. But then you get to this remake, and this remake, just by the look of it, you can tell is extremely diverse. Like, everybody in here is like something different. There are LGBT, there are people of color, like they're this and they're that. And Damien, like in the first movie, like I said before, he was gay, but he wasn't overly flamboyantly gay. The new Damien, not only is he black, but the dude is flaming. You know what I'm saying? And so they see all this and they're all like, oh, I'm not watching this. They just pandering to us and everything. Because I was like Googling this a couple of hours ago, and somebody on Reddit's all like, the Mean Girls remake looks terrible. It just looks ugly. I'm not going to watch it. Blah, 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 blah. And why won't they watch it? It's literally beat by beat of the first movie. It just has a completely new cast. And the new cast, of course, is very diverse. The person who plays Karen is diverse. The person who plays Janice is once again diverse. The person who plays Damien is diverse. And, there's probably some other characters in there that I just haven't seen yet. And what's really weird about this movie is that a lot of people who reviewed this movie, they keep saying that, because when it comes to these stars, I only know Tim Meadows, Tina Fey. I know Renee Rapp from Sex Lives of College Girls on HBO Max. The girl who plays Katie, I know her only from the MCU Spider-Man movies, but she's barely in them. And everybody else, I have no idea who they are. And so when it's coming to the praising of this movie, people are loving Renee Rapp because they say she's outdoing the original Regina George because she's meaner and stuff. Plus, people remember her from like that television show I told you. But then, surprisingly, people say they're loving the new Karen type actress because she's doing a really, really good job. But yet nobody is praising the main character of Katie herself. And I'm wondering if she's doing a good job or not. Like I said before, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. One day I will. And so, yeah, sadly, this movie is struggling in the box office. And honest to God, I don't see them recouping their money back, and I don't even see them. They could make 100 million tops. That's all I can see them making. But so far overseas is very small, and they might not even reach 100 million. And if they don't, it's going to be a box office bomb and everything. And, that's going to suck because critically it's not doing so well. And with some mixed reviews, and money-wise, it's not doing very well. This is why I have no faith in that Danny Phantom reboot movie, a live-action movie that Paramount wants to make, because Paramount just can't cook. But hopefully, when I do watch the Mean Girls remake, I hope it's good. Like, I really do. Because like I said before, it has a place in my heart. Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.